wanted to write this fictional book. And so I had to take everything from the concepts, the character development, everything. Okay, so there's about 23 things that you had to relate back to, and it had to constantly relate back to it. And ChatGPT just couldn't do it. Hey everyone, this is Norm Farrar, aka the Beard Guy here, and welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the Amazon FBA and e-commerce podcast. Let's reverse that, the e-commerce and Amazon FBA podcast. Today we're going to be discussing integrating AI into your SEO strategy. Great topic. Everybody's talking about this. So today we're going to be talking about the big picture and where does AI fit in. What's the mixed messages on Google's stance on AI? Now, this is crazy. There's lots of controversy about this. So our guest is going to help us out with that. And how can e-commerce businesses start using AI in their SEO strategy? So welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the e-commerce and Amazon FBA podcast. All right. Again, today, talking about AI and how you integrate it into your SEO strategy. Our guest is the president and a returning guest. I think this is third or fourth time, but he's the president and CEO of Wiideman Consulting Group. He considers himself a scientist and practitioner of local and e-commerce search engine optimization and paid search advertising. While serving as an adjunct professor at UCSD and CSUF, he built the Academy of Search. So welcome. I can't wait to talk to him, Steve Wiideman. But before we get to him, we're going to have a word from our sponsor. This episode of Lunch with Norm is sponsored by VAA Philippines. Looking for a high-quality virtual assistant for your business? With the rigorous screening, intensive Amazon and Walmart training, and ongoing professional development, get the peace of mind with skilled and motivated virtual assistants for a long-term working relationship. Hire through VAA today. And now let's get back to the show. And welcome, Steve.
Hello. Good morning.
Oh, hold it. Whew. I don't get overcome with celebrities, but with you.
Well, it's morning over here in LA, but it's technically noon in other parts of the world. But I was curious when you said coffee. I'm like, you've got so much coffee behind you, but you're blinking way too much for somebody who drinks that much coffee. Because by an hour from now, I'm gonna be like wide-eyed, because I drink a lot of coffee to get going every morning.
Me too, definitely.
Well, thanks for having me on today. I'm excited to talk about AI and generative AI and all these new technologies that are making our jobs a lot easier and smoother, and hopefully helping business owners and e-commerce sites make good decisions about how to use AI.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot. I was in LA last week. I wish I would have remembered, and I give you. Well, you probably wouldn't have taken my call, but I wish I would have got contact with you. But anyways,
knowing that you're here, I actually had a friend call me yesterday who's from Korea, and he's like, "I'm going to be there for just a few hours. Can I come visit?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So he's going to come in literally right after this, and we're probably going to get some lunch in a bit. But yeah, that's fantastic. I'm always happy to see people I don't get to see in person. So please, next time you're in LA, come hang out. We can do a little impromptu podcast here in the office. It'd be fun.
Fantastic. All right. So there's a lot to talk about. And one of the things that I'm trying to get across to people is that AI isn't everything that you're seeing on every video. It's either like what I'm looking is it's so basic and they're not giving the right information, or they're telling you something that's just absolutely not true. And
make 10,000 a day with AI.
Yeah. Leaning against the Lambo, throwing the money. And you're seeing so many of these types of promos out there that I just want to set it straight. And I know you're the type of person that just tells it as it is. And, you're one of the tops in the industry. So why don't we just start talking about AI, and let's give us maybe the big picture view of where AI and what it is and where you see it going.
Absolutely. And it's so exciting, but it's so what's the word I want to use? There's a fog of myths and what's going on. What is this whole AI thing? And is it the Matrix? Is it something that we created that just starts thinking on its own and doing its own thing? And I think a lot of us haven't taken the time to really get in to learn about, where this all stems from, the technology that we have right now. Sure, there could be a Matrix type thing in years from now, but right now, these machines are building off of knowledge that we're feeding them. We're actually saying, here's what we want you to learn and understand. And then we want you to, when somebody asks a question, is use this technology we've built into to take the learning and basically come up with an answer based on, what we fed you. So it's not just go learn something and then come back and tell me the answer. We have to give it the data source to learn from. And then it comes back with an answer at that very moment. It doesn't take what it just did and fold it into everything it's doing for everybody else. At some point, I'm sure it might, but that's where it gets scary. And that's why companies like Google and Microsoft and OpenAI are getting together. I think it was just 2 days ago they announced it, to start creating some standards and to start, working together to create a safe world, where we can start using AI in ways that, doesn't affect national security or our lifestyle here in the States. So I think when we think about AI as digital marketers, AI is basically technology that stems from a database of information that allows us to get answers, to get solutions, to create content, and to create things that enable us to do a better job of running our business without repetitive tasks, without having to make phone calls and send emails to learn things, without, in some cases, without even needing virtual assistants. I still have a virtual assistant for many reasons that AI can't, do. So I love VAs, but some of the things that they do, such as finding times for things and looking for things and booking times on schedules like Bard can do now. Those things are going to save us a lot of time and a lot of money. So I'm very excited about, where AI is going. But basically, that's the way I look at it in a nutshell. It's just a big database of information that's fed into a machine that interprets it in a way that we can understand it.
Most people are working with ChatGPT or with Bard.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried, have you looked into Claude at all? Or do you have a favorite platform that you work with?
Right now, I'm just putting my time and energy into ChatGPT and Bard, and I put it on my phone. So before I think about searching, I go straight to the bottom of my phone and I click both of these one at a time, and I ask the same question because I want to understand the difference in how both display answers, and I want to play with the different tones and style of communication too. So I'll go in and say, set it to give me something a little bit more casual or to give me something a little bit more professional. I just really want to understand what kind of answers both of the different platforms that everybody's actively using. And if the other platforms start getting active, I'll probably jump into them as well. But right now I want to understand them because I need to make sure my clients appear in those search results in many cases. So I need to, really study and understand them. So I'm using both before I use just standard search. Now, there will be times where I'll jump into the generative AI labs feature. So I'll go to the labs.google.com is where you can sign up for it. It's super easy. Just click add to wait list, and within a day you're in. And basically now you'll go to Google. Instead of just getting your standard search results, you're going to get the generative AI results, and then your organic. So, and what's interesting is those results are different than Bard. You would think that Bard and that little snippet of chat that comes right beneath the search box would be the same, but they're usually completely different. So very interesting stuff. But what was the one you mentioned? I'm curious. Check it out.
It's Claude.
Claude.
It's called Cloud, I believe, but it's Claude.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay. I think I've heard
CLAUDE. And the reason I looked at that is I needed to have one of these apps that I could put at least 75,000 words into it. So, and I had to have it relate back. What was happening in ChatGPT, it was always kind of going back off base. I'd always tell it to go back to the prompt and stay on track, and it would, but then it kept going off base further and further the more I got into it.
Yeah.
And I was trying to here's what I was trying to do. One was a business plan,
Okay.
And it always had to relate back to, 5 different things, 10 different things, 20 different things. The other thing, I had always wanted to write this this fictional book. And so I had to take everything from the concepts, the character development,
Yeah.
everything. Okay, so there's about 23 things that you had to relate back to, and it had to constantly relate back to it. And ChatGPT just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Put it into Claude. Guess what?
Knocked it out.
It knocked it out.
Awesome.
So it was just, again, it's just experimenting, and even the proper prompting to get a ChatGPT, it probably could have. And now with what's it called? Not code interpreter, the new one that just came out where you can upload a file and it can interpret the file.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. A Bard does that too, though. You can do that with images and so forth.
Yeah. But unfortunately, with Bard, we have a bit of a drawback here in Canada, and also it's not working with ChatGPT, by the way.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they've, like, if I go in there, it says that it's temporarily disabled. So anyway, but let's talk about, you talked about Google and ChatGPT, but there's been mixed messages that have, like, since January, I've been seeing like you can't put anything that you can't put anything that's been developed through ChatGPT on Google to get the best search results. So anything that's AI generated would not be weighted the same as an original document.
Sure. And I'm kind of a data-based analyst, right? I want to make decisions and recommendations based on actual data. And so far, the only data I have 2 sources. One, I have what Google said in one of the 2 pieces that they have on the internet, right? One of them is, use AI. It's great. You'll love it. Right. Another one is, don't create a lot of automated content, right? And it's kind of like, well, all right.
Which one?
But the other data source that we have is at the launch of ChatGPT. The internet community went nuts in creating a lot of automated content, and you saw a lot of those same people that were talking about it wonder why in late March all their content tanked. And so, to me, seeing a frequency between the users that were using automated content when ChatGPT first came out and those that were penalized in terms of a drop in keyword rankings, to me, there is a correlation, enough of a correlation to say it's probably not a good idea to do this right now. And while you might have success with it short term, maybe because Google hasn't yet figured out about the scale or hasn't noticed that, that the content isn't really created by the brand, it's just created by a robot, that you're kind of scathing through. And a lot of SEOs will say that, hey, it's working right now. Why wouldn't I do it? It's working. Because in a few months from now, when you're counting on this income, like the new income you're getting from your influencer marketing, and suddenly it just stops, wait, I've just forecasted that I'm going to make an extra 10K a month, and it just dropped down to 2. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Right. So to avoid that scenario, I would avoid running tests that you expect to be a part of your long-term digital marketing strategy, and instead think long-term about your digital marketing strategy in ways that you can differentiate. And here's why I envision it not being a good solution to just throw your keywords into ChatGPT or Bard and say, create a page of content that's going to rank in the search results and make it not, sound like a robot, is because what if, and I'm in a small city here, La Mirada, what if, I don't know, 20 of the plumbers that are in La Mirada do this exact same thing, and they throw out the same queries and the same prompts because they're all going to some plumber marketing course or something, and they're taking all the same ideas and suggestions, and they create all the same content. Now you look at these 20 pages around perhaps drain cleaning, right? Drain cleaning services La Mirada, and they all have this chat generated content, and it's all basically spitting out the same thing, but some of them are saying it different, and the results are always a little bit different. Paragraphs, a few bullet lists, some headings, some subheadings, and keywords, and good titles and descriptions. And they're all basically the same thing, just a little bit of a different spin on the content. How is Google going to rank, those plumbers? Because it's not going to use geo, because those are service-based businesses. They're not brick and mortar. You don't go to your plumber office, in order plumbing. You make a phone call. So to me, the way I worry about it is that if you use this as your primary vehicle, at some point, so will all of your competitors, and you won't be able to depend on that strategy being, consistent. So the way that I kind of think about it is, how about we come up with something original and unique and better? Why don't we look at our reviews and see what people are saying about us? And let's use AI and ask AI to review our reviews, right? And help come up with some copy or some topic ideas based on what people are saying about us. And then maybe let's even ask our customers, why do you choose us? Send a survey out and, do a little raffle or something for those folks, and ask, why would you choose us over the competition? What makes us better? And then take that and, of course, incorporate it into the content itself, but also create images and videos that represent those, because people are very visual. And I think if we get addicted to this idea of we can just feed keywords to generate content through a conveyor belt in Bard or ChatGPT, then that we're almost being lazy and complacent to try to provide the results that our customers are actually looking for, because they're very visual. Users are very visual. They want to see images and proof, and they want to see you doing the drain cleaning, and they want to see happy client giving them a high five. And you know what? They probably want to see a little humor, so that you have some authenticity and seem like a fun, easy to work with service provider. Because, as you know, in some service industries, they're not always the politest or friendliest. They just want to do their job and get out. And some of us like working with people that we like to work with, that are really nice. So I think that's the difference, right? You can absolutely go all day long and generate content, load up on your website and hope it ranks in Google, but it's very likely going to be a short-lived technique, and not a strategy that's going to stand the test of time. But I still think there's an absolute value in using AI. We use it every day in what we're doing. Now imagine you are the local plumber, and I know we'll get into e-com here in a minute too, but imagine you are the local plumber and you're like, okay, how can I use AI to help my digital marketing, maybe from an SEO standpoint, right? The first thing that I would do is I would ask the whichever engine you happen to be using, whichever site you happen to be using, and say, give me some topic ideas of things that I can write about to help build my credibility and my authority. And it's going to give you a whole list of topics. You put those into a spreadsheet and you decide, I'm going to create a page for each of these, including a video, and be, hi, I'm Joe from Something Plumbing. Notice a lot of people have questions about whether or not you need a plumber based on your drain condition. So I'm going to walk you through how you can test and whether or not you need to hire a plumber to whatever. So you can use those to create topic ideas and create a spreadsheet and include columns for video and for images. You can go to your reviews, as I mentioned, and see what people are saying about you. You can go to your customers, and then you pull all that together with the topics that you generated from AI, and you can get some really good content. You could also at some point do something a little bit more innovative and ask ChatGPT to basically, at some point, well, it won't even be ChatGPT, it'll be probably something even better and greater in a year from now, is you could say, I need to be number one in search results. Here's what I'm currently using as a title and description. I need a script that's going to basically look at the top 3 or 4 search results and include a preview of my title and description, and put it into something like an Amazon Mechanical Turk, and run a survey basically to get users' feedback on which listing they would click on and why, and then keep feeding it in and cycling until our listing is the number 1 clicked on, right, by all the surveyors. And those surveys can cost 5 cents, super cheap to run. So you put a budget together per month of marketing testing you want to do, maybe $200, $300 to start. You might get to a point where you're spending a few thousand, if you're making tens of thousands of dollars in revenue from organic. And then you run this series of protocols so that it does a lot of that testing for you. And then what you're left with is a title and a meta description that's likely going to be the most clicked on. That includes all the things that the people who reviewed your business in the past have already said about you, and including some of the keywords people are searching for. You'll have the topics that that they're interested in, and pages that correspond to them. And then you just rinse and repeat every month. And you ask yourself, and you ask your small team, whether it's probably, if you're a plumber, it's probably you and your wife, right, or spouse. And you'd say, what are we doing every month to make sure that we're improving the quality and helpfulness of our content? What are we doing every month to make sure that other websites are linking to and mentioning us, through our relationship building and collaborations like Norm and Kelsey are doing with their influencer marketing? What are we doing every month to make sure that our listing stands out the most in the search results so that users choose us the most often and we become the final URL that they stay on so that Google recognizes us as being the most helpful? What are we doing every month? And so you sit down at the end of the month, you look at all of those different areas, and then you figure out ways that you can incorporate AI to continue to make it better and more streamlined. But I would never recommend to anybody to just say, write me a page about, if you were to do that, it would be just to see how it compares up to what you wrote based on the topics that you're able to garner from your research and from the whole exercise. Anyway, that was a lot.
No, that was great. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I get emails from certain people. Like I've had these contacts for a long time, and I know how they write. And now I've got this completely different tone, and I know it's AI, and it's kind of funny because I'll just go back and forth with them, just talking about this new look, right? Or because it's not them.
Yeah,
they're using the wrong tone, and they're coming off as a doctor or a lawyer or a CEO of some Fortune 500.
Yeah,
when it's just a guy working out of his basement like me, but
so
wrong tone. The other thing I was wondering, and I don't know if you have any insight on this. I was on a podcast yesterday where we had an IP lawyer on, and again, very knowledgeable in AI, but I asked if they could give us any further information about who actually owns the content. Does AI, is this ChatGPT, or do we own the content? And if so, like if they don't own the content, do we have to put it through a rephraser to regenerate the content so it becomes ours?
Right. Yeah, and they haven't published anything about that as far as I know. If there is now, I'm going to definitely take a look afterwards. But I'm 90% sure that nothing has been published from them about whether they feel if you're using their system to generate content that it's their content. And I think they should have been forthcoming about it out the gate, because you can imagine that pretty much everybody now, especially in digital marketing, are using these tools to generate titles and descriptions and content and short summary data for whatever. So I think that they would have had to have been forthcoming about it from the beginning, because they said use our platform. They never said, but if you do, it's our content. And that's something I think that if they do decide to do that, they're going to lose their audience, because that's the whole reason we leverage the platform, is to get content ideas.
Do you ever use act or like you want to rephrase things? So two things: you can either use a rephraser, and kind of curious if you use that, or do you ask it to act humanized, or the tone will be in a humanized voice? Have you ever? Does that work?
I did in the beginning back in like February, March, when I first started playing with it.
Yeah.
But now not really. Now I just ask it to read a page that I've already written and write it in my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be more helpful. And now there's ways that you can store that so that you don't have to keep saying use it in my voice. You can use plugins and extensions and ways so that it stores a lot of that information already for you. All these great prompt generators that integrate right into the platform, like ChatGPT. You can click right on one, and what I love about that is now, instead of you having to go through all those iterations that you were mentioning earlier, it'll prompt you. And so you put in some information and it asks you a question, right, based on how that prompt series was engineered. So that way you get to the right result through a series of questions and answers, so that that you get the response that you want. But yeah, I remember back in the early days, it was like, no, this is act like I'm a 5-year-old, right? Make this readable for a 5-year-old or something, But yeah, and I feel your pain, because as you mentioned, during the intro, I'm teaching at UC San Diego and Cal State Fullerton here in California, and I would say probably 15 to 20% of the students are using it, and you know they are, because you know the tone of what them when you teach for 4 or 5 years and you're used to seeing a certain writing style, and all of a sudden they're all writing really professional, and you're like, what's going on? And I tried for a while to use tools like Past and originality.ai, but they've gotten so false positive heavy that I just don't trust them anymore. So now a lot of it's a gut check. I'll still kind of run it just out of curiosity, but I don't trust the results most of the time. I feel like, and some of our writers get downright offended when you say, hey, I ran your article through a AI detection tool, and it looks a little bit suspicious. Perhaps you can take a look to see maybe if it's just false positive or something, and we've lost writers because they're just so offended, that we would even suggest such a thing. So I would
Or
be
they got
careful
caught.
about putting your trust in it. Maybe, but you can't prove it,
No.
other than that gut sense, like you mentioned, when you read it and you're like, yeah, this doesn't feel like what I'm used to seeing when I've been doing this for years and years and years,
So there's probably a lot of listeners that heard of ChatGPT. They've been on it. They've, created a prompt, but they're not too sophisticated with it. When you're talking about the different plugins, can you explain that a little bit and let us know maybe some of your favorite plugins?
Let's see. What's the one that we've been using a lot? Well, there's an app that kind of works like a plugin that I showed you earlier on my phone. It's called Genie. And Genie
Okay.
uses ChatGPT, and it enables you to see newer recent results beyond just the 2021 database of content that it was fed to learn from. So I think that the biggest plugin, the most important if you're using ChatGPT, is any plugin that will enable you to see content from today, not just content up to 2021. So there's a browser extension. I think I have it on mine right now. Let me pull it up for you. It is called ChatGPT Summarize Everything.
Oh,
and what's great about it is when you're reading an article, a blog post, etc., it actually will take that whole page, it'll read through it, and I believe it uses ChatGPT because it's a extension for it, and it'll actually summarize that whole page for you. Now, I went into the plugin itself, into the customization section, and I added in, give me 10 action items, and I found a few of them to not be very helpful, so I ended up going down to 5. And I said, so let it do its normal summary and key takeaways, but I also want 5 action items from this article, so that way I know how to use the information instead of just okay, that's really interesting. That's interesting. Oh, and there's some things that we should fold into how we do our our SOPs, or however we're organizing what we do. So I think that's why one of my favorites is to summarize everything. But there are just a ton. Another one that I use, I always forget the acronym for it, but here, let me log into it and tell you.
sure.
It is AIPRM.
Oh yeah. I love that one.
Yes. And it's gotten a little out of control. There's like 4,000 prompts in it now.
I know.
but again, there's a search feature, so you can search, and folks that are creating them tag them pretty well. So I feel like as long as you use that search feature, you can get a prompt that'll get you close to what you're looking for. And if there isn't one, then you could go out to any freelancer platform where there's prompt engineers that are living and breathing in this world now, and you can say, create me a prompt for this that I can add to to this extension. And now you're not just getting the prompt you need, but you're also contributing to the community so other marketers can leverage it as well.
You were mentioning, and I don't know if you did this through Bard or if you were doing it through ChatGPT, where you were analyzing your files.
Oh, right.
So
yes.
How are you doing that on ChatGPT, or are you doing it through Bard?
Sure. Mostly Bard. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just because I feel that now with Google being, obviously the biggest search engine, and now with users knowing that Bard is an option and starting to move over there a little bit, I don't know what's ahead for ChatGPT. So for me, I'm kind of thinking, because Bard is going to have its generative search results, right in the integrated web search, it's probably smarter to start figuring out how to get what I need from Bard, only because, again, all our clients are borderline obsessed about their keyword rankings in Google. and they don't really care as much about ChatGPT. ChatGPT, for the most part, people aren't using it to find a nearby restaurant because it only goes up to 2021, right? Whereas Bard, you can still kind of get that info.
Right.
But yeah, in terms of file analysis, one of my favorite things to do is include it with keyword research. We just reinvented our entire SEO content strategy and workflow, calling our SEO content workflow, and it starts with keyword research. And if you do any sort of SEO, if you're an e-commerce site and you're doing a category, for example, let's say you're going after Rolex Submariner, right? It's a super competitive keyword, and there's millions of dollars every year being spent to rank for those keywords, because those pages will generate millions of dollars of revenue for the watch owners. So the way I would take something like that is I would start with data I already have. So I would take my Google Search Console insights for the Rolex Submariner URL, and then I can download that and basically tell Bard to go through this list and theme those keywords, organize them for me. And from there, I can help organize the sections of the page based on how people are finding the page in search results. I'd also use my paid search query data. I'd go into Google Ads, into my search campaign, specifically for Rolex Submariner. I go to my search terms report, where I'd see all the actual search terms that people used that triggered our ad, and see those ones that converted. And if they converted, we'll just say two or more sales, then I take those search terms and fold them into that same workbook before I upload it to be organized. The next thing I would do is, because I don't want to just guess based on how I've been found, I also want to use insights based on what's working for competitors. So I think the whole community is using Python quite a bit to experiment and learn how we can leverage Python to get information that other programs and software and tools aren't yet doing, or doing well enough. So for example, I'm running a ChatGPT kind of hybrid protocol, where I start with Python and I say, basically, here's a list of URLs, as many as I want. I usually do somewhere between 10 and 20. Here's a list of URLs that rank on the first 10 to 20 results. Please scrape the titles, the descriptions, the headings, the subheadings, the image alt attributes, and the URL, and the words in the URL. And give me a list of search terms. Column 2, right? Combine all the search terms from all the competing URLs. Column 3, lowercase them for me, or dedupe them and lowercase them for me, right? So what I'm left with is basically a list of different ways that competitors are writing topics to try to rank for their content. And then I'll use the ChatGPT for Sheets extension in Google Workspace, and I'll do this sort of entity extraction from that. So it'll basically extract the entities from each of those different focal points: headings, titles, descriptions, subheadings, alt attributes, file names, etc. And then I get a list of entities that I can look at and say, okay, hey, writer, we need to make sure that we're talking about these entities, because they're all mentioned in context on the top ranking pages in Google. Then you combine that with some of the insights you garnered from your search term report, and maybe a little research that you did in SEMrush or whatever your favorite keyword research tool is. And two ways that I like to do that. One is by doing the same thing that we just did with the URLs, but not just using the URLs, but using the keywords that the competitors are actually ranking for. So it's basically taking the top 10 to 30 competitors and extracting the keywords that they're all appearing for, and then running a frequency table to see how often those keywords intersect. And then you can tell the AI, please remove anything that has less than 2 intersects. So that way we're only working with search terms that 2 or more websites get traffic from. That'll eliminate all the brand terms from your research. You don't have to worry about your keyword research trying to tell you to rank for your competitor's name. It's silly. The other way I use the SEMrush, for keyword research is using a seed keyword, like we've been doing for 20 years in all these different platforms, putting in that seed keyword and seeing, what kind of results I can get. The 2 parts of that is I'll also toggle over to questions only, just so that I can get the questions for the FAQ section of the page, so that I get a more richer search result by having FAQ page markup on each page. So I take all that keyword research, feed it through AI to organize it, sort it, prioritize it, make sure I've addressed all the entities and search terms that I need to include in that copy. I feed that over to the writer. And then it goes through an editor to make sure that they use those search terms, and talked about those different entities, and that they're incorporated into the table of contents and FAQs. And now I know I've got myself a pretty darn well optimized page based on data and competitor insights. So that's one way that we start with AI as we start producing content.
Ooh, very good. Okay, yeah, I got
You're
that.
recording, right?
Kelsey, get on that. All right, so we are way past the bottom of the hour. Wow, I can't believe we're already at 12:45. So there's lots of people listening right now. If this is the first time you're listening, we do something at the end of every podcast, and that's something called the Wheel of Kelsey. If you're interested in entering, it's hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, tag 2 people, you get a second entry. And what is the giveaway today? Well, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So as a consultancy, a lot of what we do is help businesses that are trying to appear more prominently in search. So we're doing a 90-minute strategy session. So we'll basically send you a list of questions and things that we that will help us to give you a really good 90 minutes of the best of us to help you, one, troubleshoot why some things aren't ranking or performing well, and two, to give you a little bit of a roadmap so you know over the next few months, where your areas of focus could be to maximize search for the next 6 to 12 months.
And first of all, that's awesome. Second of all, it's priceless. It really is priceless. If you get Steve's time for 90 minutes, that's incredible. And I want to back this up because you're not just coming on here and you're talking, and you're not a guy that's just, gone through a course in SEO. You've been in the field since the beginning, and you are working with the top of the top. In fact, which was kind of funny because you got razzed a little bit about this, but when you typed in SEO or SEO specialist or SEO optimization, you were the guy that came up number 1. So, but you got razzed, so you stopped doing it, right?
Yeah, they thought it was a bragging thing, and it, we calculated we made somewhere close to $4 million during the time that we were ranking for that keyword. But we've established ourselves well enough with the multi-location and franchise businesses that we work with that it was safe for us to let that go. And in doing so, we really have a fantastic relationship with our peers, with the folks that run the conferences, and it's I wouldn't trade it for $1 billion. And I'm probably never going to try to rank for that keyword again. As we launch our new website, we might go after consultancy or whatever, but calling yourself an expert in an industry where there's no documentation. Oh, you did mention a little bit about, you've been teaching this stuff for a while. I actually wrote the textbook that I think 40 colleges now in the US universities are using. It's called SEO Strategy and Skills, and it's through the CourseWare system at Stukent. So it does have the whole, number and everything as a certified textbook. So kind of neat little win for the last couple of years. Was 10 years ago I said one day I want to be a writer and write content and write a book, and here I am 10 years later, and it's going on its we're doing the 3rd edition now.
Wow.
So pretty exciting.
See, I basically flunked out of school, and I use Grammarly.
I use Grammarly. I really do.
All right, so let's go to a sponsor, and we'll be right back. This episode of Lunch with Norm is sponsored by SureGo Marketing. Ready to take your brand to the next level on TikTok and Instagram? SureGo Marketing specializes in helping entrepreneurs and coaches build profitable brands on TikTok and Instagram, and in less than 90 days. With SureGo Marketing, you could build your brand, create incredible video content, and increase leads without spending a single dime on ad spend. Visit SureGoMarketing.com today and elevate your brand. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, so questions, comments, get them in. We'll get to them at the top of the hour. And anyways, how much time do you have?
I've got another 10 minutes. I have a meeting with an old friend in 10 minutes. So.
Oh, yes, the fellow that's coming over from Korea.
Coming up.
All right, very good. So get in your questions and we'll try to get to them. Okay, now let's talk about how can AI work with e-commerce business? Like, what should those SEO strategies look like?
Sure. So I mentioned the category idea with coming up with keyword research. Something that we did that was really effective for some of the restaurants we work with is we pulled localized information around each location. When you have 2,000 locations, you can't write 2,000 pages, to have your, let's say, breakfast restaurant show up, at the top of the search results at scale. That's a lot of work. So we're able to use AI to basically collect that data. And then we bounce that data off of a different AI system. So we'll use, say, ChatGPT and then validate it with Bard, or, in many cases still, because we don't necessarily 100% trust the information, we still have somebody who does a QA, just a manual sort of review, and anything that looks suspicious or off, will have to be done manually. But in that process, we were able to get 60 different unique fields. Now, if we think about our products and our product details and all of the different parameters of the products, first, we want to make sure that we're utilizing all of them. And if we're not, then it's probably a good idea to look at the competitors who are selling the same product to make sure, if we're missing some fields, that we know what those fields are. And we could probably use some level of scraping to make sure that we pull those fields into our database and that we have all the same standard fields. Now, once we have all those product detail fields, we can feed those into AI to generate product descriptions that are unique and helpful. And then again, you want to make sure that part of that process might be, okay, so here's what I want you to do. And you can name your AI whatever you want. Will Pemble, our company president and former co-founder of web.com, just brilliant guy. He names his AI Fred, right? He says, your name is now Fred. Okay, Fred, I'm writing a product detail page and a product description. Here are the fields that and information about the product that we know about. Here are the reviews, the product reviews that we found on our site and maybe on other websites. Write me a really helpful product description for a user based on what the end desire is of why they want to use it or why they need it. Again, based on those different data sources. And then what it does is it pulls all those different fields in and it writes a really good description for you. And at that point, those can funnel into a work queue that somebody here who's, maybe an intern who's going for a journalist degree or something and wants some writing experience can take and kind of make it their own. You could also add the brand voice, of course. You could say, here's how our company writes, maybe point to the About Us page and say, write in this style and include, all of these different fields and attributes and reviews to create a really helpful description. Then again, in the future, as you start planning ahead and when these technologies are working in this way, you could say, now, Fred, I want you to take our page and compare it up to the top ranking pages in the search results, and then ask users which page they would click on and why. Take those insights, rewrite the content to be more helpful and aligned with what the user's feedback is, or the surveyor's feedback is, and continue to do that in that loop, like we talked about with the plumber, until we're the most clicked on and the most helpful. And then once you do have the most helpful page, you're just going to rinse and repeat or set it on autopilot every month to go in and make sure that it's staying up to date and staying better and staying unique and helpful. We can't really do that at scale manually, but thanks to AI, we're going to be able to. So I would start thinking with that mindset of how can I automate a constant improvement to the quality, quantity, and helpfulness of my pages based on the product attributes, based on product reviews, both on our site and other sites, and then measure it and have the AI look at those measurements and continue to do its work. You do need to set someone on the conveyor belt as a moderator to make sure during that process that we don't accidentally say something inappropriate, that nothing gets published that it shouldn't, and that might take, a small handful of people. But in doing so, if you could be number one for every product in your e-commerce website, is it worth it to hire a few hands to do a little bit of that moderation if AI is doing a bulk of the grunt work for you? Probably. And it might take a little bit longer and that queue might get, filled up. But that's okay. You get to it as fast as you can and do as much as you can. And every month you're just going to continue to see growth and improvements because it's a data-driven, measurable automation process or protocol. So that's the way my mindset as it comes to e-commerce and how I might, leverage it to just always have, the absolute best and most helpful page versus the competition.
All right. Very good. Now, because of your time, Kels, let's go over to some of the questions.
Okay, yeah, we'll try and get through this first. First one from Spencer, asking as a student, do you really hate when people email you using AI?
I don't know. Not really. Depends on what the context of it is. If it's, I mean, we use it all the time when we're texting people back, and it gives us the little prompts where you can just say thanks or whatever. I live and breathe in those simple prompts. It saves us time. It's helpful. No one's ever said that offends me that you used, default response. They get it. They understand everyone's busy and multitasking and doing things. So if it's a personal email and they're doing it that way, or it's an email outreach, then yeah, mark as spam, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're responding with AI anyway.
All right, next one, specifically for the giveaway. Will this giveaway be valuable for someone who hasn't launched their first product yet? He's
Absolutely.
working on a prototype.
Of course, yeah, I can help suggest the CMS to use. I can suggest extensions and plugins to pay attention to, and also have a technical SEO prerequisites deck that I can share, so that as your developer and designer starting to work on the website, it'll basically make sure that all of those different components get addressed. So everything from user experience and floating call to action buttons on mobile and page speed, all those things that we know are important, to build a solid foundation for SEO. So absolutely.
Okay, and we've got two more. One from Cool Hand. This may have already been answered, but I got pulled away. How well does ChatGPT do at giving SEO if asked to write an SEO optimize anything, blog, title, ad copy, etc.?
By default, I haven't felt it was where it could be. I think it's probably 25-30% there, thanks to other tools like Jasper and similar type platforms. You can get a little bit closer to getting better advice. There's Surfer SEO that's doing some really cool stuff. There's a lot of tools that will help give you inspiration, if nothing else. But in terms of like coming up with topic ideas, that whole Python thing I was talking about earlier, some of that can be done to a degree in Jasper. So you can get a lot of that data. It's in beta still. It's kind of neat to play with, but and they're getting closer to being able to do it the way that we coded it. So I would say they're getting there, but I don't know that I would ever actually use it to straight out generate content. I would do it for inspiration to see how it lines up with the content I wrote, and absolutely use it for topic ideas.
Okay, and then our last question is from Rad. SEO through ChatGPT for our portable solar products leads to roof solar. We used AI PRM for ChatGPT and we got the same result. We specified portable solar and are still unsatisfied with what we are doing wrong. Any tips or advice for someone trying to use it?
Let's see, I'm going to read it again. Portable solar products leads to roof solar. Okay, use ChatGPT, got the same result. So basically the output isn't what was expected from the input, and the AI tool that a lot of us are using, it's going to have phantom things. It's going to have bad and weird results. I would try Bard. I would try using a different system. I would I would even try to go, like I mentioned earlier, to Freelancer or someone and ask them to create a prompt for you. That it gets closer to what you're looking for. And then what you do is you give them the answer of what you were expecting to get. And then they'll keep coding it until, their plugin, their extension gives you that same answer.
Steve, is there a good platform to go and find these? Like there's Upwork or online jobs. Is there something that you would recommend?
I probably would start with just the digital marketing community. There's a lot of those online genius groups, in Slack, and I've even got an SEO club of my own. It's kind of fun to talk to other SEOs, and sometimes I invite students in too to hang out with us. But I think there's social media groups like Facebook and LinkedIn, and you can ask around. You can say, does anyone know somebody who does a really good job with prompt engineering? I've been goofing around a little bit with Freelancer. And in fact, Freelancer is where I was able to get the base of the Python script that I needed, to be able to extract those results. So, I would say, start with the social groups, because that way you get more referral from people you trust, and then, explore some of the platforms like Freelancer.
Very good. Okay. So, Kelsey, why don't we hold off on the sponsor and we'll just go right into the.
Well,
Yes, Kelsey.
well, let's Steve, if you have to get going, we can say goodbye here. If you wanted to share your contact information,
No,
or you
I'll
can
just
stick
let
around
them know
for
I'm
the
running a
Kelsey,
few minutes
up to you.
late. It's all good. I love hanging out with you guys.
All right, perfect.
All right. Okay, so we'll go over to the Wheel of Kelsey.
It's time for the Wheel of Kelsey.
Win this. Kelsey, make up a name, put it in there.
All right, I just want to make sure I got everyone that entered. All right, so thank you everyone for entering. We do this every single episode, so make sure you come back Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and let's see who today's winner is. Give it a spin. If you are the winner, please email me, kate@lunchwithnorm.com. And it looks like
cool hand.
Jason.
Jason.
All right,
from
Jason.
Facebook. Congratulations. Just email me, kate@lunchwithnorm.com, and we'll get you all set up. And
So were we Jason? Did you mark us as Jason? I was just wondering if we.
of course. Yeah.
Oh, very good. All right, we won.
Jason. Yeah.
All right. Steve, somebody wants to work with your agency. How do they contact you or the agency to get more information?
We love just to help people in general. So if you just want us to take a look at something or ask questions, we don't have any salespeople here. So it's just a small team of, I think we have 9 now. So by all means, if you just want to throw something by us, we're Wiideman everywhere, Wiideman. If you just want to talk to me and talk shop and nerd out with me, I'd love that. I'm SEO Steve everywhere. So by all means, find me on all the socials at SEO Steve, and happy to schedule some time and just talk shop with you.
It's awesome. And that's really why I like you so much, is that you just love sharing content. I mean, it's fantastic. You're an awesome guy.
Thank you.
And hopefully we can get you on again. Want more great information? Don't forget to subscribe by clicking here. Also, if you want to check out our latest podcast, click over here.
Lunch with Norm.